All right, so this is Brent Mills. I'm the chair of the Sage Circulation Committee and this is our October meeting. It's October 11th, and in attendance we have myself, Ann Zulke, Maura O'Daniel, Rose Peacock, and Delia Wallace at present. Right. And so as I kind of mentioned before I started recording, I believe this one might be a little shorter, well, short and sweet, and I definitely have time if anyone has questions at the end too. There will be a meeting, sorry, just a moment, a meeting coming up for the user council, which will be on November 15th. I will also be there as well, and there will be more Sage-related updates on that as well, particularly regarding upgrades and kind of UI or user experience changes that will be forthcoming, and also to get some opinions and feedback. Oh, I see a new person on right now. I see Patty Faw. Okay. All right, so the first and always most exciting thing about the meeting is assigning when the next time will be that we'll meet. And it's generally been on the third or second Tuesday of the month. Well, it's actually every month. But does anyone in attendance currently have any issues with November 15th? I do realize that's a little bit after the user council meeting. Did I say the 15th? Oh, I did say the 15th. Woof. Yeah, thanks, Ann. All right, so if that is the 15th, then it is likely a good idea to probably push that to the next week, which would be the 22nd. But the only issue around that is that I guess it's close to Thanksgiving, which is on the 24th, but if people are able to make it, it'd be great. If I don't hear any, oh, looks like I hear some affirmatives. Ann said school will be closed. Oh yeah, so it is Thanksgiving break as well for the schools. That's a good reminder, Ann. Put that in there just in case. But I will be recording this and putting it up live along with the agenda and chat logs. So we'll be able to kind of connect back if you miss. Okay, so that's set. Looks like the next meeting time will be on November 22nd, same time, 10 a.m. at Pacific. Okay, so kind of moving right along. At the last meeting, we did talk about the claims returned circulation counts and the lump sum tallies. And what this means is if we have an account, like you'll see mine up, I've just kind of obscured the details here, but when you go to the items out tab, there's that tally count. And previous to this change, items that were marked claims returned that would be in this other special circulations tab would count towards being items out because they're open circulations as far as Evergreen is concerned. They haven't actually come back, but they've just claimed to be. But that was a little misleading for some libraries, and so I've kind of agreed that the library setting for right now would be enabled so that items that are claims returned don't show out in this items out tab. So if you have 4 items out normally here and 2 claims returns items, it will only count these items that are out and it will not count these in that tally. So you can get a kind of quicker, accurate number for patrons when they're curious about their items that they have out. And lost items can also go in here too, if you're curious. So that was one change that's happened. And that's enabled at the consortium level, so this is for all libraries in Sage. You'll still be able to see those claims return counts either down here or when you're, where is it? Yeah, I don't have any right now, but there's a claims return box right here, and that will keep a tally of the number of claims returned items that are also in the patrons tab, or in the patrons account. All right. And another update is the kids OPAC or the KPAC. I've added a item type filter. This was in response to if you have a lot of patrons coming in or students and kids, and the interface is meant to be pretty simple, but if they do a search for something like let's say Star Wars, you can get a whole lot of information coming back at you, and you maybe don't want to see the Star Wars books or the Star Wars books on CD or anything like that. For the most part, if a student's child's looking for Star Wars, it could be looking for the DVD or just the books. So I've added this format filter here, which is similar to the format filter we have in the normal catalog. So when you're normally searching on Evergreen, you'll see this format dropdown, and that is the same type of format dropdown that is here. So now if we did a limited search for Star Wars again, it would only pull up the DVD copies, which significantly lowers it. Be nice if they had their pictures, but those are the DVDs then for that. So that should make it a little easier for people using the kids OPAC or KPAC to find the right item they want. Didn't want to make it too complicated, but I think that kind of strikes a nice balance, as well as making sure if they don't want any electronic resources, that's an option, or just the generic all formats, which is what it will default to if you're doing a search. Okay. All right. Yeah, so that was that. Just some light news. It's not a huge update, but I know Apple's recently pushed out an update for their desktop operating system, now called macOS Sierra, which is 10.12. You can see if you go to this About This Mac, right there in that version line. And if you're on that version and you launch the staff client, you'll be prompted to download a new font, which is titled Osaka, which is actually pretty cool. And there's a few kind of, you can see shading changes that happen now with if you're happening to use the Mac client for Evergreen. And these are just because of OS X's default styling parameters. So that's just something to keep in mind if you are opening it for the first time on a new, on an updated Macintosh. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay. Just some previous action items. The holds training, I've been pulled away yet again with, there have been some student loads and updates for various schools, as well as other kind of infrastructure things I've had to deal with this last month, so I haven't been able to really focus on the training. So yet again, I will get that pushed up as much as I can if anything else doesn't come along. Hopefully we'll get that out as soon as I can. All right, and the previous action item from the last meeting was concerning the on display status, which is the copy status. So if we go to, oops, I can just find an item real quick here. You'll see that there's a couple of options for item statuses. We're kind of familiar with available, reshelving, lost, ones like that. But this on display status, which I'm not going to change any of these, but oops, I always forget. If we pull this up at some point, so if you pull it up in item attributes, you'll see the status. So now if you choose, where is it, on display, that is now a status that is holdable. So if you do put items on that on display status, holds will be able to build on them. So just kind of keep that in mind. But there weren't a whole lot of libraries I found that were actually using that status. I think the main users were Lake County and Baker. And Baker was the one that was curious about the change. So after contacting Lake County, that's it has become a holdable status now. I'm still working on the lost and damaged form, which is, yeah, if I can just, I'll bring it up real quick. So if people want to kind of give their opinions on that as well here, I was trying to figure out a way for libraries to contact each other regarding lost and damaged items. There's the link there. And you will need to be signed in as a staff account to see this form. You'd basically, enter your, anything with a red asterisk is something you have to put in. You put in your issue, give it a date, names, item information. Yeah, I'm just open to thoughts on that. It was a kind of draft to try to help fill some demand there. And at the end, you'll be able to email it to that library. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'll be working on that more as well, and welcome to hear people's opinions.
Hey, this is Maura.
Hey, Maura.
The form I think is fine. I'm just not super clear about when it would be used
Yeah,
because um, I guess ideally the patron would be paying for lost or damaged items, and then that money from one library would go to the library that owned the book or item,
okay.
right?
Yeah, so
So,
patron to library, library to the item, or the library that owned that book, for
right. So I
example.
guess I wonder if there's, some kind of time period where you would wait for the patron to take care of it before, say, one library would reimburse another library for a lost or damaged item.
Okay.
I see like if we paid another library for their patron's damaged item, then that bill would still be on that patron's record, and then it would be like confusing if they came in to pay it here or somewhere else. You know what
Oh
I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes total sense. Yeah, thank you for that, Maura.
Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah, and if you're available off meeting, I wouldn't mind bouncing a few ideas off you or
Sure.
anyone who's here as well. Um, but yeah, just
But the form itself, it looks like a great way to contact another library, just like inform to start talking about, hey, do you know this book is damaged? Have you
yeah, and
billed
that
your patron or whatever?
maybe that's a good kind of use for it is to kind of solve as a paper trail for, um, or just kind of a timeline for when these items, just you need to be made aware of them, being in that status.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And all right. Yeah, but with the form, and again, I think at the last meeting I asked, um, also just if you could share how your current process works with me. Either email is usually best, just because I can uh, consult it back after we've talked. But tickets are also a good idea at sagelab.org/support, and I'll be able to see those along with Beth. Um, okay. And I don't want to spend too much time on the test server bit, but I started loading items in, and the main reason I don't want to spend too much time on it is that it bleeds into the user council meeting with some kind of rather substantial changes and updates, as well as the metrics and things behind why I've made the changes I have. But it basically just has to deal with kind of the new look I was imagining for Sage. Um, but there are new items loaded in there, as well as some performance optimizations that will be made clear at the user council meeting. But yeah, feel free to have a look using the HTTPS prefix. And you can probably see my main subject for the items right now currently. But that is something to look at. And there are items in there now, not for real libraries, but just to kind of lorem ipsum get an idea of what that would look like with content. All right, and with the self-check, that was, what is my login? Was it, there it is. All right, with the self-check, I'll log in as myself. Give it a workstation. Uh, the print list button is still over there on the left. I've uh, held off a little bit in changing any of the widths or other dimensions on this just because it looked a little wonky on some of the Hood River machines that I've looked at here. Um, the spacing was different. I don't know if that's due to the fact that they were using a different browser or their monitor itself was not set up uh, to show the new kind of spacing. But as far as I was concerned, and after probably today, I'm going to just go ahead and do this, is to just increase the spacing basically between these buttons. We had talked before at length kind of about the logout versus logout with no receipt, kind of with patrons maybe getting a little confused if they click logout that they would automatically get a receipt, which is the case. Um, I think we just arrived at the conclusion that kind of the current verbiage is the most succinct and kind of clear for what actually happens instead of saying log out, parentheses, you'll get a receipt. And there are some style changes that I'm looking to make to this as well. Nothing crazy or obtrusive, but more or less just increasing kind of our WCAG compliance, hopefully to 2.0 at least, and hopefully better, which I'm trying to do with the rest of our site as well. But it would mainly involve, bringing up font sizes and increasing the space between the buttons. Oopsie, log out with receipt. Oh, that was an option now we discussed, to have log out with receipts be an option right there. Okay. All right, so kind of the current action items. These are just what I've come up with. Feel free to add your own in as well as I go here. But I've wanted to investigate kind of the whole process with regards to a system. So those are libraries that have multiple branches. Thinking of like Hood River, Baker, Oregon Trail, libraries like that. So for example, if I put a hold, so if Baker has 2 items, one of them is out, and I place a hold, shouldn't that hold grab the other Baker item instead of going out before finding another item? There are about 1 million variables in play with the hold life cycle, but I definitely want to look at that a little closer because I'm just curious how it's working right now. I know generally speaking, I haven't heard any complaints, but there were a few issues with a few Baker items in particular that I wanted to make sure were as resolved as we could get them. And if you are interested, I think it's called Clockwork Hippo. There was a presentation a while ago from at the conference. I'll just put the link in here in the chat to the PowerPoint, which kind of describes how hold targeting and capture works within Evergreen. And it's pretty elaborate, but it definitely gives a good bird's eye of what's happening. So have a look at that as well if you're kind of interested as the steps that I will be following as I trace these holds through the process of completion from being placed till being captured. And I'll report back on the next meeting, which will be, I've already traced a few logs with Perry that I'll share as well to see what was going on. Okay, and yeah, I guess the real last big thing that I have was I was just thinking if it might be worth having a kind of weekly just chat window where I would be online and people would be able to just pop in, ask me a question, or ask anything really. It doesn't have to be related strictly to Evergreen, but just know that I will be always online and available during that time. And I was thinking a couple options. If we wanted to do something like that, could just be GChat, or GoToMeeting might be a little too many hurdles. You have to click on the link and authenticate and use your app and all that. So I mean, I thought we could actually just use the Sage chat room we have, but been kind of disused. But it could be used for this purpose, where I'll just keep a tab open for an hour or so to field questions from anyone and all in Sage that would like to. For those who aren't familiar, the URL is just sagelib.org/chat. And when you go to that, it's just a normal chat room. You'll be prompted to put in a name. Usually the format of your name and kind of what library you're in would be helpful for me, just so I can refer to you a little bit better. As well as you can see, it will keep logs. So anything in here will be publicly available to be seen. So just kind of keep that in mind. But I thought that might be a decent idea just for questions where, it's a quick one and you just want to bug me right away before, writing an email or something like that. Maybe it's something silly like, or maybe not silly, but just I've got how do I create a mark template, or my copy templates seem weird. Do you know what's going on? Ideally, if it's a group thing, stuff that's good for the group, but if it's a small enough, it's an hour window, everyone should get a chance to kind of poke at me with some questions you have. Delia mentioned, would there be a time available for mini training, so to speak? Definitely. And as always, I'm open most of the hours. I'm always online from roughly 8:30 till 6, and then sometimes later at night when I'm working on the back end stuff. But the chat, yeah, would definitely be a good way to start that. And at the very least, we could schedule those mini trainings. And ideally that would be a good idea, because we could do, if no one has any kind of singular questions, it could be a nice way to go over, just processes within Evergreen, or questions that people have regarding certain things that maybe are not answered, or you're just curious about. So yeah, and it. So does anyone have any opinions about if that would be good to try on the Sage chat room? Even right now, people, if you want, you can just try to log in and see if you're there. I'm just test right now, but my name on here would be Brent Sage Admin, or B Mills. You would definitely see. You can always change it, with Nick. I'll just call myself Brent, and now I'm Brent. And Nick, anything you want. Well, maybe not anything, as long as there's no spaces. Yeah, and it would even be a great idea for those who are brave to wade into how chat functions with the Evergreen developers. This is a good kind of intro to that. Yeah, so are there any opinions on the chat room versus any other approach, or venue, I guess, for that? And is weekly a good time frame? I was thinking kind of once a week, maybe an hour or something like that. Just where even if no one's on, I could be doing other things, but I'll just be there, kind of hanging out. And for the chat, how you access it, you would just go to the link in the chat window for our current thing, which is sagelib.org/chat. It should prompt you for a nickname, and as soon as you do that, you'll show up in this right-hand gutter, and it will show that you had joined, as well as what your name is. And another reason for this being pretty good to have on here is that it will keep a log, so people can trail back to see what was said. So if one thinks that's a good idea, I will probably just, oh, there's Delia. I got a ding ding in my, no, it's nice. I got a ding ding in my earphones letting me know that I got a message from, and another cool thing you can do in the chat room is if you want to address someone directly, you can type, the first initial or first letter or two of their name, and then hit tab, and it will auto complete. You can spell things correctly. So there's that. Yeah, it's cool little emoticons. You have the option to turn off the sound as well if you want, or hide some various fields, hide the box showing where people are. Um, you know, disable censorship. I'm not sure what that exactly is, but yeah. All right. So I think that's kind of what I was going to go for. I'll announce that on the listserv. Just for the people in the room currently, is there a kind of a nice time during the day, roughly I can also do this during Saturday when I'm working as well, but during the week that's kind of quieter that you would be able to do something like get on a chat, or your staff members could hop on and ask a question? There's a good time during the day. Okay, I'm hearing from Maura that 2 p.m. Monday through Wednesday, but that's really any time would be okay. 2 p.m. is a nice kind of happy medium that everyone's finished more or less with lunch. Okay, Delia's saying maybe Wednesdays, early afternoon. So I'm just going to kind of throw it out there. Is something like Wednesday at 2, would that be a decent time? 2 to 3? Yeah, certainly worth a shot. Not a lot of problems there to it. And I'll also make sure I'm on Saturday from 10 to 2, so I could also be on, well, yeah, you could just try me maybe Saturday at noon. It's usually a quieter time in case people aren't able to get to me during the week. So maybe we'll start offering it on Wednesday being the main one, but I'll try out Saturday as well, and just to see if anyone's there or not, see how that goes. Okay. All right. Well, that's really. I guess something now that. Thanks for the reminder about the Thanksgiving break. Anne, is anyone going to be, or anyone's library is going to be closed during Thanksgiving break? Any of those days? Okay. So that'll be good to just make sure that the close dates are set up for libraries during that week. I can even check right now if we just go to. Oh, it looks like Anne knows how to do that too. Just as a quick reminder, since everyone's on right now, where you would find that, and this is a little different since I'm on a Mac right now, but would be in the admin menu, which is in the upper right-hand corner in a Windows machine. Local administration, close dates editor, and it will default to the library that you're logged into. So I'm logged into Hood River County, so I see the close dates for them. I can see that they have theirs set up for Thanksgiving this year. You can you probably won't be able to see everyone else's, but yeah, what you would do is just add a multiple day closing. Detailed closing, I usually would not do. That's more for if you're closed for an hour or sometime generally less than a day. I wouldn't use that if you don't have to or don't have a time form for it. But yeah, you would click that multiple day closing, have a date in that format of year, month, day. Reason for closing, Thanksgiving. Apply to all my libraries. That checkbox is if you are doing this at a district level. So you see, like I mentioned, those branch libraries earlier. If we were doing this at the Hood County Library District level and check that box, it would apply to all these libraries. So that's kind of a quick fix if you are one of these libraries that is in a branch system, which I don't think anyone that's currently on is. So we do that, and then you would hit save, and it would show up below there in the close duration and reason for closing. That would also be a nice thing to kind of go over in the chat room too. All right, so that's a good reminder. I'll also send that out to when I do this update about the chat once a week. Okay. All right, so as far as circulation stuff's concerned, I don't think I really have a whole lot else to mention. It's kind of falling into that open forum time now. If anyone has any questions or concerns for things during the agenda that I did not talk about, or feel I maybe glazed over or should spend some time on. Okay, well, I don't really hear anything from anybody here, so barring that, I'll just kind of wrap up. So from this meeting, the next meeting we'll be having is on Tuesday the 22nd. That is during Thanksgiving break. I will, at the conclusion of this meeting, start drafting a update for the listserv to talk about a weekly open availability on the Sage chat room from Wednesdays 2 to 3 and on a trial basis Saturday noon to 1 p.m. And as well as a kind of reminder to get close dates set up. And there is a link on sage.org for how to do that I will also link to. So that's kind of what I've got there. All right, so I guess barring anything else, thank you for coming to the October Sage Circulation Committee meeting. And I'll have this up on the website and the YouTube shortly. And thank you so much for joining.